Thank you for your time, Sir Ian McKellen. It's
No
a great
problem.
honor to meet you.
Thank you.
My first question, we Italians, we talk like with gestures, and I think this is the manners of also of a wizard. And I want to know if when they proposed you to play Gandalf back then or even now, you practice your gestures like that.
Oh, I see. Well, now, I've got to disappoint you. Gandalf is not Italian. He's probably English, but he doesn't... I hope he's not that sort of boring English person who is absolutely reticent and doesn't show his emotions. He's a bit more in touch and wiser than that. Gestures, yes. Well, he has some big gestures when necessary. I think mainly in the face, though, isn't it? Gandalf's eyes and facial expressions probably tell you all you need to know about him.
I want to ask you about your passion for Edoardo De Filippo that you brought to the theatre.
Yes.
It was like love at first sight with his work. Have you ever seen him on stage? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I met Edoardo. I could say I worked with him. There was a gala performance organised by Giorgio Strehler in Milano, and at the climax of it, I spoke some words of Shakespeare from his last play, The Tempest, La Tempesta. Giorgio Strehler had just been directing the play and then spoke the same lines in Italian. And then, from the front row of the auditorium, Edoardo, who was very old then, spoke the same words in Neapolitan. And subsequently, I played at the National Theatre in London in Napoli Milionaria, one of his great parts. And then, even while I was filming The Hobbit, I came back to London and did a run of Il Sindaco, and I love those plays. I mean, Edoardo is one of the great men of European theatre in the 20th century. Not only was he a great playwright and actor, but the idea of his having a company of people who stayed together for a long time, who did plays about what life was really like in Naples, Napoli, and I wish we had such a playwright in the United Kingdom.
I always ask, what was the poster hanging on your wall when you were a kid, when you were a teenager? Growing up in those years, I want to ask you if there is an image that inspired you or that.
No, no. It was before you could. I was brought up during the war. You couldn't buy posters. The paper wasn't available to you. I think if I had a poster on the wall, it would probably be Michelangelo's David. When I first saw that image in a book, actually, long before I went to Firenze, it stirred something inside me. I got excited in many ways. So beautiful, but my sexuality responded to it as well. That would have been the image I think I would have had on the wall.
Some comparison between you and Bilbo. Can you tell me two qualities, one positive and one negative, between you and Bilbo? I mean, are you lazy like Bilbo? At first he wants to be like in the house, washing dishes and...
Well, I wouldn't call it lazy. I mean, that's a positive quality. He's a homebody, is the way we call them, which means that he likes his comforts of home. He likes the safety and security of home, and that's what I do, and I think that's a positive quality. Negative qualities... He's suspicious of the outside world. Yeah, I mean, that's why I live in New Zealand. I don't work in Hollywood. I don't really, I like to sort of keep myself to myself. I don't have rituals, no, but I am a little bit superstitious. Yeah, I'm silly. I just don't know. I have, I do believe in fate, which is a kind of superstition, I guess. I believe that things happen without you being able to influence them. That, like in a way, it's fate that I ended up directing The Hobbit to some degree. I didn't really influence the way that happened. It was a combination of different things. But but I always think that fate's kind to me for some reason, whether or not I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. It's I feel like I'm getting looked after.
Speaking of ritual, you told in Rome that you have a look at Goodfellas before shooting a movie. Why that movie? Why that? How does it make you feel?
Well, you as a director, you sometimes feel that you're in a rut. You get stuck. You just think, oh, am I making a good movie? Am I being as imaginative as I can be? Because directing is all about your imagination. It's about thinking of the film and seeing it in your mind playing, and then that's the movie that you try to shoot. So I always find that there's certain movies that kind of inspire me, and if I'm feeling tired and a little like unimaginative, I stick a film like Goodfellas on, or Casino, one of Scorsese's films, and you just see a really imaginative filmmaker at work, and it just perks you up. You think, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I always ask what was the poster hanging on your wall when you were a kid, when you were a teenager. But I met Guillermo del Toro in Rome some weeks ago, and he told me some nerd stuff, and then he told me, and Farrah Fawcett as well. I mean, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. What can you tell me? Be sincere.
I never had Farrah Fawcett. I had James Bond posters on my wall. I had I had Raquel Welch from 1 Million Years BC poster on my wall.
Raquel Welch.
But that was only on there for the dinosaurs, though. There were dinosaurs on there as well as Raquel Welch.
You said you're a method actor, and every time I deal with I talk to method actors, like with Viggo Mortensen, for example. The question is, what was the craziest thing you do to prepare for the role?
It's very difficult with this role because so much of the character is about the transformation, and when you take that off, you do walk away from it. So, I mean, I think the ideas of bringing Thorin with me were always there. I think that the craziest thing I used to do is drive my car around Wellington with a Maori chant playing on the radio, and I used to scream very loudly so that I could get a kind of gravelly sound going in my voice. And the reason I used to do it in the car was because I didn't want to disturb the neighbours. So yeah, that was part of my process.
Thanks for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
And tell me about Peter Jackson. How to say? They compare him to a Hobbit. What can you tell me about that? Does
I think Peter's probably a bit of a hobbit. I too am a bit of a hobbit, but I've also seen Peter as a dwarf, and I suspect he may have more dwarf in him than hobbit. He is industrious in the same way that dwarves are. He builds empires, or an empire, in the same way that the dwarves do, and I think that his love of film perhaps has the same appeal as dwarves' love of gold. So, but he looks great as a dwarf, I've got to say.
I always ask, what was the poster in your wall when you were a kid, when you were a teenager?
I think it was Wham.
The Wham.
The pop group Wham. So that kind of betrays my age, doesn't it?
Have you seen them in concert?
No, that died with the poster.
Do you risk your life on set with Peter Jackson while you are in the middle of the battle?
But I think Peter expects us to risk our lives. You know, I mean, he's got an incredible energy which he brings onto set. You know, this very laid back, very gentle man, but with incredible energy and with incredible vision. And he wants you to match that. And so it's not a risk, but it's a journey. It's exhilarating.
Everybody compares Peter Jackson with Hobbit.
He's also, I think he's a talented actor. I mean, quite often the only way he can give you the note is actually to play the line, and which I found very helpful. I would just think, all right, I'll just copy that.
Yeah.
Every time I ask, what was the poster hanging on your wall when you were a teenager, when you were a kid?
Good question. Mine was a band too. One was Manchester United, and the other one was of a band called Slade.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I have no idea. I did a Manchester United wallpaper. Posters, I don't know.
Not what that girl in the tennis court, no?
Oh, maybe so.
Thank you.
She was under the bed.